Treblinka, a factory of death in the dense forests of occupied Poland, approximately 100 kilometers northeast of Warsaw, a site of unimaginable horror emerged during World War II. Treblinka, initially established as a forced labor camp in 1941, would undergo a chilling transformation that would forever scar the pages of human history. The camp's evolution from a place of grueling work to a factory of death exemplifies the darkest depths of Nazi brutality and the systematic annihilation of European Jewry. In its early days, Treblinka served as a forced labor camp, primarily housing Jewish and Polish prisoners. Established in November 1941 under the command of Theodor van Eupen, the camp was situated near a gravel pit. Prisoners toiled under harsh conditions, extracting gravel for the German war effort and working on irrigation projects along the nearby Bug River. As survivor Hershl Sperling later recounted, "We worked until our hands bled, and still they demanded more." The camp's original purpose, while cruel, was not yet the efficient killing machine it would become. Prisoners lived in primitive barracks, battling starvation, disease, and brutal treatment from guards. One prisoner, Israel Cymlich, recalled how they would secretly collect potato peels from the guards' quarters to supplement their meager rations. The turning point came in 1942 with the implementation of Operation Reinhard, the Nazi plan to exterminate Polish Jews. Named after Reinhard Heydrich, the plan's architect who was assassinated by Czech resistance fighters on May 27, 1942, this operation marked a sinister escalation in the Holocaust. Treblinka, along with Belzec and Sobibor, was chosen as one of the key extermination camps for this genocidal endeavor. The decision to include Treblinka was made by Odilo Globoknik, the SS and police leader of the Lublin district, who saw the camp's isolated location and proximity to rail lines as ideal for mass extermination. In July 1942, construction began on Treblinka II, the extermination camp, just 1.5 kilometers from the labor camp. The new camp was designed with a singular, horrifying purpose: mass murder on an industrial scale. SS Oberststrafe 1/4 Rare Richard Tomala oversaw the construction, implementing lessons learned from the operations at Belzec to create an even more efficient killing center. The layout of Treblinka II was meticulously planned to facilitate rapid extermination. Upon arrival, victims were led through a deceptive tube or schlouch, a narrow fenced path leading to gas chambers disguised as showers. This path was cynically referred to as Himmelstrasse, or Road to Heaven, by the SS. The camp was divided into three main areas: the reception area, the living area for SS and Ukrainian guards, and the extermination area, chillingly referred to as the upper camp by the Nazis. Franz Stangl, who became the camp commandant in September 1942, described the camp's efficiency. Treblinka was a primitive but effective production line of death. Belzec was a laboratory. Treblinka was a factory. The scale of murder at Treblinka was staggering. From July 23, 1942 to August 19, 1943, approximately 870,000 Jews were killed at Treblinka II, making it the second deadliest extermination camp after Auschwitz-Birkenau. At its peak, the camp could process 12,000 to 15,000 victims per day. To put this in perspective, more people were killed at Treblinka in a typical day than the total number of British and American soldiers who died on D-Day. The victims came from various ghettos and regions, including Warsaw, Radom, Czestochowa, Kielce, and even as far as Thessaloniki in Greece. Among the victims was Janusz Korczak, the renowned Polish Jewish educator and children's author, who refused offers of sanctuary to accompany the children from his orphanage to Treblinka on August 5, 1942. Treblinka's transformation from labor camp to death camp was emblematic of the Nazi regime's broader shift towards the final solution. The camp's evolution reflected the increasing radicalization of Nazi policy and the industrialization of mass murder. What began as a site of forced labor became a place where human life was extinguished with ruthless efficiency. The arrival process at Treblinka was designed to disorient and control. As victims stumbled onto the platform, they were immediately confronted by shouting SS officers and Ukrainian guards, many of whom were drunk to dull their senses to the atrocities they were committing. Men were separated from women and children, families torn apart in moments. SS Oberststrafe 1/4 Rare Kurt Franz, known as Lauka or Dahl due to his youthful appearance, often stood on the platform with his dog Barry, ready to attack any who resisted. Franz was notorious for his cruelty, often using his whip on arrivals and setting his dog on prisoners for entertainment. Victims were forced to surrender all personal belongings, told they would be returned after. Delousing. This included everything from suitcases to wedding rings. As Jankiel Wiernik, a Jewish prisoner who survived Treblinka, later testified, "The ground is covered with banknotes, coins, diamonds, gold, and other valuables. All this is collected by the Reds, Jewish workers, and then loaded onto trucks." The scale of this theft was enormous. It's estimated that the value of goods stolen from victims at Treblinka alone amounted to hundreds of millions of Reichsmarks. The Nazis even established a separate area cynically called the Lazarette, or field hospital, where elderly or infirm arrivals were taken directly to be shot, their bodies thrown into a perpetually burning pit. The next stage in this process of dehumanization was the cleansing. Victims were told they needed to shower for hygiene purposes before resettlement. This lie was reinforced by the camp's elaborate Faaade, which included a fake train station complete with a clock painted on wood, timetables, and even a ticket window. The path to the gas chambers was cynically named the Himmelstrasse, or Road to Heaven, by the SS. To maintain the illusion, the Nazis even installed a Star of David over the entrance to the gas chambers. Initially, there were 3 gas chambers, each measuring 4 by 4 meters and capable of killing 200 to 300 people at once. However, these proved insufficient for the scale of murder planned. In August and September 1942, under the direction of Erwin Lambert, an SS officer experienced in constructing gas chambers, 10 larger chambers were built. Each new chamber could hold 400 people, dramatically increasing the camp's ability to carry out mass murder. The method of killing evolved as well. Initially, a diesel engine was used to produce carbon monoxide, but this was later replaced with a gasoline engine for greater efficiency. The man responsible for operating these engines was Ivan Marchenko, known as Ivan the Terrible, whose brutality became legendary among survivors. The actual gassing process took about 20 to 30 minutes, but the disposal of bodies became a significant challenge. Initially, bodies were buried in massive pits. However, as the number of victims grew and concerns about evidence arose, the Nazis began burning corpses on large grates made of railway tracks. This change was implemented following a visit by SS Chief Heinrich Himmler in early 1943, who was concerned about the possibility of Allied discovery of mass graves. This grim work fell to the Sonderkommando, Jewish prisoners forced to operate the death machinery of Treblinka. These men, knowing they too were marked for death, worked under unimaginable conditions. They sorted through the belongings of the dead, dragged bodies from the gas chambers, extracted gold teeth, and operated the crematoria. As Richard Glaser, a Czech Jew who survived as part of the Sonderkommando, wrote, "We were drenched in blood from morning until night. We crawled through mountains of corpses." The psychological toll on these prisoners was immense. Many turned to alcohol, which the SS provided, to numb themselves to the horror of their tasks. The life expectancy of a Sonderkommando member was brutally short, usually only a few months. The Nazis regularly liquidated these workers to eliminate witnesses, replacing them with new arrivals. In a cruel twist, some Sonderkommando members found themselves processing the bodies of their own family members. Despite the seemingly hopeless situation, the human spirit's resilience shone through even in this darkest of places. On August 2, 1943, the prisoners of Treblinka rose up in a desperate bid for freedom. The uprising was led by a small group of prisoners who had been secretly planning and preparing for months. The rebellion began in the afternoon when the camp's routine was at its most predictable. A single gunshot rang out, followed by a grenade thrown into the SS guardhouse. In the ensuing chaos, prisoners set fire to camp buildings, cut telephone lines, and made a mass break for the forests beyond the camp's perimeter. Of the approximately 700 prisoners who participated in the uprising, only about 300 initially managed to escape the camp perimeter. Over the following days and weeks, most were either recaptured or killed. Some, driven to despair, took their own lives rather than face recapture. Yet against all odds, a handful survived. By the war's end, around 70 Treblinka survivors remained to bear witness to both the horrors they had endured and the courage of those who had risen up against their tormentors. In the aftermath of the uprising, the Nazis began to dismantle Treblinka, desperately trying to erase all evidence of their monstrous crimes. This operation, known as Action 1005, involved demolishing buildings, uprooting railway tracks, and even planting crops over the site of mass murder. Despite these efforts, the scale of atrocities at Treblinka proved too vast to completely conceal. In the years following World War II, efforts to bring the perpetrators of Treblinka to justice spanned continents and decades. One of the most significant trials was that of Franz Stangl, the camp's commandant from September 1942 to August 1943. Stangl, who had fled to Brazil after the war, was finally captured in São Paulo in 1967 and extradited to West Germany. After a grueling trial that lasted nearly a year, Stangl was found guilty of the mass murder of at least 400,000 Jews and sentenced to life imprisonment. Other Treblinka guards and officers also faced justice in various courts. Kurt Franz, known for his sadistic cruelty, was sentenced to life imprisonment in 1965. Gustav Imwith Ilda Wonforthensberger, who had operated the gas chambers, received 12 years in prison. These trials, while unable to fully address the magnitude of the crimes committed, played a crucial role in establishing historical record and providing some measure of closure for survivors and victims' families. The testimonies of survivors were instrumental not only in securing convictions but also in preserving the memory of Treblinka for future generations. Samuel Willenberg, one of the few survivors of the Treblinka uprising, dedicated his life to bearing witness. He once said, "I live two lives, one is here and now, and the other is what happened there. It never leaves me." Willenberg's sculptures depicting scenes from the camp serve as powerful visual testimonies to the horrors he witnessed and the courage of those who resisted. Today, the site of Treblinka stands as a solemn memorial to the victims of Nazi atrocities. A striking monument featuring 17,000 jagged stones, reminiscent of a Jewish cemetery, symbolizes the communities destroyed in the Holocaust. Each stone bears the name of a town or village whose Jewish population was decimated at Treblinka. At the center stands a large stone monument, cracked down the middle, representing the broken lives and shattered world left in the wake of the Nazi genocide. The memorial site plays a crucial role in Holocaust education, offering visitors a tangible connection to the past. Each year, thousands of people, including students, educators, and dignitaries, visit Treblinka to pay their respects and learn from this dark chapter of history. In recent years, innovative educational programs have been developed around the site, encouraging students to research individual victims and create personalized memorial stones, adding a deeply personal dimension to the vast tragedy. As we reflect on the history of Treblinka, we are reminded of the depths of human cruelty, but also of the resilience of the human spirit. The story of Treblinka serves as a stark warning about the consequences of hatred and intolerance, and the importance of standing up against injustice. It challenges us to remain vigilant, to cherish our shared humanity, and to work tirelessly for a world where such atrocities can never happen again. In remembering Treblinka, we honor the memory of those who perished and those who survived to tell their stories. We affirm our commitment to preserving this history, not as a burden, but as a beacon guiding us towards a more compassionate and just world. For in remembering, we ensure that the voices of Treblinka's victims continue to echo through time, urging us to build a future worthy of their memory.